This absolutely adorable recipe from Handle the Heat with Tessa Arias caught my eye when I was watching Becky from Acre Homestead, and I had to try it. So for this recipe, I wanted to go ahead and get everything out and ready to go. So in the bowl, I actually have 1 cup of all-purpose flour, a 1/2 cup of the black cocoa powder, 1 tablespoon of cornstarch, a 1/2 teaspoon of baking soda, and a 1/4 teaspoon of baking powder. Then I have a cup of the Ghoul Halloween M&Ms plus a 1/2 cup of the white chocolate chips. The recipe also calls for 1 teaspoon of vanilla, along with a 1/2 cup of granulated sugar and 1/4 cup of brown sugar. Now to note, I did pull out the 1/2 cup of unsalted butter and the egg early so that they could come to room temperature. Then finally, I had 1 teaspoon of salt, and I went ahead and preheated my oven to 350. Then I was ready to start mixing. So I put the butter and the sugar all together at first because they wanted that to whip for 3 minutes. So I put all of that into the mixer, got it going, and just allowed it to really come together into a creamy consistency. Once that had become a little bit creamier, I have a paddle that doesn't actually fit my 5-quart KitchenAid bowls, so I've ordered one of those, but right now I'm really having to scrape down the sides and make sure I keep piling that up. Once I've scraped down the sides a couple times and let it continue mixing, we finally got to a really good consistency, I felt like, and then I was able to start adding the other ingredients for the cookies. So next you were supposed to add vanilla, and I don't usually measure vanilla, I kind of eyeball it. For this, I did what the recipe asked for, plus a little dash, just, because you can't have too much vanilla. For the room temperature egg, I have seen so many people online, when they crack the egg before they put it in the batter, they put it in a separate bowl so that the eggshell, if it does get eggshell in it, you can remove it before you put it in your batter and mess up your batter. So I did do that. And to be honest, I kind of understand why you would want to do that. Now, I am not the best cook in the world by any means. I actually have only recently been getting into cooking. I started making bread, and I've learned so much through that some of these other recipes have not been quite as intimidating. So finding something that you really enjoy, I feel like allows you to open up doors that you potentially may not have ever even known that you would want to walk through. Once the batter had what I felt like was a good consistency, it was time to add the flour and the cocoa and all those ingredients I had pre-mixed. The recipe called to sift the cocoa, but since I already had the sifter out, I thought I would just go ahead and sift all the flour, all the cocoa, the cornstarch, the baking soda, and the baking powder. The real hero of this recipe is the black cocoa. It is what they use when they make Oreos, and it gives Oreos the black coloring of the cookie. I think that's so neat, and it was really what I was looking for when I was looking for Halloween recipes. I wanted to make either a black cupcake or a black cookie, just that dark, rich look, and this recipe was perfect. After it mixed, I added in the salt and let that finish up mixing. And then we had our dough. It is a very hard dough. I was actually really shocked at how difficult it was and how pasty it was. If I'm being completely honest, at this point, I was wondering if I'd messed something up, but we went with it. We kept going, we persevered. Now it's time to mix in the fun stuff. And like I said, this was a really hard dough, so you really have to get in there and mix. The recipe did call for you to hand mix it and not to use your mixer, and I'm assuming that's so you don't break up the M&Ms or the white chocolate chips. So poured those in and just started mixing. This did take a little bit of effort and it took a little bit of time. You really have to like use your weight behind it to mix this dough and to mix in these M&Ms and white chocolate. And if you're wondering about the M&Ms, they're actually the Ghoul Halloween colored M&Ms. They can be a little bit difficult to find. I was able to find some at Target, and then my mom was actually able to find some at Sam's. So once everything was mixed up, it was time to put the cookies on the baking sheet. I did use my medium scooper to put these on there. It did make pretty decent sized cookies, so if you wanted them to be smaller, then you may not want to use one as big as I did. But it's pretty simple after this. You just scoop the dough out and you put it on the baking sheet. Now the recipe didn't call for you to flatten yours out, but I did flatten mine out a little bit because I wanted a little bit more surface area for decorating. So you do take a couple of the M&Ms and you just put a couple on top. I chose to do 3. I actually had a ton of green M&Ms, kind of random, but you know, it happens. So next you get those little edible eyeballs and you can put 2-3 different eyeballs on each cookie, and this is what kind of gives it that monster's face. I thought these were so adorable when I saw the Acre Homestead do them. Wanted to do them immediately, and the eyeballs really do add. It is worth finding those to put on the cookies. Then they go in the oven for 10 to 12 minutes. I did have to bake mine 13 minutes, and that's just because of my oven. Where I live, I tend to either have to bake an extra amount of time or at a little bit higher temperature for them to come out the way that I want. But these turned out so cute. You do let them sit and cool for about 5 minutes before you put them on a cooling rack. So I just let these sit out for a couple minutes and then use my spatula to transfer the cookies over to the cooling rack. These were so tasty. They are darker. They do have that Oreo-esque type taste to them, and that's just from the black cocoa. But these are adorable. I actually took some over to my neighbors, to their kids, and they thought they were just so cute. So if you have kids or you just want to make some fun cookies, I highly recommend these. They're just fun for Halloween and they turned out delicious. 10 out of 10.